Tennessee at Auburn. Auburn favored by 10 points Saturday. It's a 7 o'clock Eastern game on ESPN. Kind of a mess in the SEC this week, by the way, because the game of the week on CBS was supposed to be Ole Miss and Texas A&M, and then that got postponed. And you can't just play musical chairs. You can't just take this game, the Tennessee-Auburn game, and move it to the 3:30 slot. So Saturday, where you would normally see the big SEC game on CBS, you will see, drumroll please, not with snapping of fingers, San Diego State, Nevada, the one we've all been waiting on. As for ESPN, that is the home where you will find Tennessee versus Auburn. Tigers favored by 10. I thought both of these teams found themselves in pretty similar spots 1 week off of each other a couple of weeks ago. Tennessee, remember, was emerging out of a bye week. Arkansas was coming off the A&M loss, and Tennessee was rested, and they were going to go to Fayetteville, and they were going to have as good a chance as they've had all year to put forth a solid offensive showing. And instead, they were up 13-0 at the half. They gave up 24 unanswered in the third quarter, and their offense just totally and completely stalled. They had it felt like a 19-1 run-to-pass ratio that night. So they did not have the pop out of the bye week that we maybe expected. Auburn, a couple of weeks ago, feels like an eternity ago, goes to Ole Miss. And they won a close game. Competitive game, some would argue. It was the wrong outcome. Don't care. They got the win. And then they played the game Colin is showing you right now against LSU, and the explosion did happen. The spark, the pop, whatever you want to call it, it did happen. And they won 48-11 and probably could have named a score up in the 60s if they wanted to. One opportunity was missed. One opportunity wasn't missed. Now, you got people who follow Auburn, myself included, who have followed him for a while in the SEC, who were worried this entire time. If you're not an Auburn fan, in other words, and you're going to have to play them, or you got them still on the schedule instead of having already played them, what the worry always is if Auburn doesn't get totally knocked out, like the Arkansas game, what really aggravated people was not only did Arkansas get screwed out of a win, it kept Auburn alive. And then you had the Ole Miss outcome, and you think maybe Ole Miss got screwed out of a win, but it kept Auburn alive. And you keep them alive, and you keep them alive, and you keep them alive, and then boom, it happens. And then all of a sudden, once the heat's turned up on that program, that's when they respond. That's when Malzahn's always responded. So if they're responding right now, I'm telling you this line is too low. I don't know necessarily that that's what's happening. That's what the game's for Saturday. So let's dive into the game a little bit, because I'm not quite sure what's going on at quarterback for Tennessee. I don't think anyone up there, possibly including Jeremy Pruitt at this point in the week, is sure what's happening. It sounds like he's put a plan on the table where multiple guys could start. You know my feelings on this. Bless the heart of one Jarrett Garantano. Don't necessarily think that's the answer this year, and so I would love to see Harrison Bailey get a shot. However, there's always a valid reason why guys aren't playing more. I'm not dumb enough to think I know it more than Jeremy Pruitt does, so that's just me blindly hoping right now. I've heard him being Jeremy Pruitt, talking all week about how they've had really good practices. They had an off week last week, unannounced or unplanned, I guess, and so they loved what they saw last week. I don't know what that means. I don't know what the lower standard offensively is right now for Jeremy Pruitt to say that about Tennessee, but according to the head coach in Knoxville, they feel good about the last several practices they've had offensively. Now, the quickest way to test all that for Auburn, the quickest way to test that resolve is just to get a fast start. And I expect one out of Auburn. Malzahn's famous for it. They're famous for a fast start and then stalling. So is the stall going to happen? Get to that momentarily. Expect a fast start from them. I almost think it could be, as crazy as this sounds, a blessing in disguise for Tennessee. Arkansas didn't do this to him. Arkansas had a delayed start, and then they ran past them and made them play catch-up. I just prefer someone make them play catch-up all day, because at the very least, that turns up the heat early on, and they're forced to open it up as much as they can open it up, and maybe that forces Harrison Bailey on the field, and maybe through pressure, instead of bursting the pipe, you make a really nice diamond down the road. That's the old expression that is used, hopefully not in these situations, but maybe it has to get that dire. So I expect a fast start from Auburn. Would be surprised if Auburn wasn't playing with the lead early in this game. However, talk to some coaches in the SEC. Talk to them about matchup advantages. Here's what they'll tell you. Pruitt versus Malzahn, matchup advantage, edge Tennessee. This is universally thought around the South. Everyone respects Jeremy Pruitt's coaching acumen. Everybody values his coaching acumen, and his specific style in matchups against Malzahn. It's just a matchup deal. I've heard that many, many times. So you know what, Colin, let's go ahead and pull up our capsule, and then I'll talk through it as we look at the capsule. As I said, the line on this game currently is Auburn minus 10 to 10.5, depending on where you're looking. And I don't necessarily know that our model has a good read on this. We've got Auburn minus 9, so we're kind of right there in line with the Vegas number, maybe a little bit shorter than they are. Here's why I don't have a good feel on it. If Auburn is in that surge mode, like they've been known to be a time or 2 or 10 during the last decade, then this model's irrelevant. It could be 3 scores off if that's indeed where they are. I'm going to trust the model because I'm going to have to make my eyes see it. I'm going to have to make my eyes, in other words, see Bo Nix go up and down the field on Tennessee's defense like he did against LSU's. There's a big difference in that sentence. I think you can spot it. I'm going to go Auburn to win the game. I will trust our model somewhat blindly. There's not a lot of value being put in this pick, and I will take Tennessee plus 10. I think it'll be a competitive game. I think Tennessee will find a way to make that game close. You know, it's just a couple of years ago, 2 years ago I think it was, this was maybe still what you would to date call Jeremy Pruitt's biggest win at Tennessee when they went into Auburn and won that game. So we'll take the Tigers to win, we'll take the Vols to cover.